Good afternoon, everyone. A Monday edition of On Cue coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game studios. As always, I am your host, Rich Quinones. We've got about an hour plus to play with, get locked in on the conversation, and I hope everyone, first and foremost, had a wonderful sports weekend. You are enjoying your Monday, February 9th, 2026, as we dive into what transpired over in the world of sports. As always, get social with me. Very easy to do on X at Rich Q on Q. Of course, TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. We are on multiple platforms. Now, we always like to say hello to you guys chiming in. Our YouTube channel, Rumble, Kicks, LinkedIn. Don't forget about Facebook as well. SR 1029 FM The Game. You can capture us on the AUDACY app. Just search Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game, part of the Coastal Sports Digital Network. And as I mentioned, we are live during the week, Monday to Friday. Yeah, sometimes we fire off a little early when there's a lot to get into. And of course, with an NFL season in the books, in a very, let's just say, we told you so Friday edition of On Cue, in a game, in a Super Bowl that, let's, for all intents and purposes, just call it the way it is, was a boring, non-competitive, absolutely disaster, debacle, blowout of a Super Bowl 60, all said and done. We kind of played it out for you, did we not? We kind of played it out for you on Friday. We told you what was going to transpire on the air, and ultimately Seattle absolutely dominates the New England Patriots 29-13. And I feel like there's so many different layers to unpack with a game like this, because you can look at it from so many different vantage points. You can look at this in so many different vantage points. I mean, the game itself, I think the NFC Championship was probably the Super Bowl. And if you're a Denver fan, I got to feel bad for Denver fans, because I think the Denver Broncos would have put up more of a fight than New England. I mean, that game Sunday, and look, I watched it. As I said, we all were going to watch it. Let's just be honest. Even those that claim they didn't watch the game, you're full of it. And I told you on Friday how a couple things would play out. And some of you guys were going back and forth with me. Some of you guys were debating me, arguing with me, and that's okay. That's fine. That's fine, because at the end of the day, everyone had their opinion on how this game was going to play out. I, for one, never thought this freaking game was going to be competitive. I never thought this game, it's one of the reasons I think I said 31-13, Seattle. I mean, forget about when I get into the player props and we talk to Lloyd around the 4 o'clock hour. I mean, we were handing you money. We were giving you winners. But this game was not, it was just not competitive, because ultimately Seattle is that good. Their defense was on a historic run. And again, let's just empty the cupboard. Let's just empty the cupboard and be fully transparent again. The New England Patriots are not that good. Yeah, the New England Patriots regular season, they won a lot of football games. And you have a second-year quarterback, who I'm going to get into in a moment, in Drake Maye, and he played really good football during the regular season. But this right now, we're talking the playoffs. We're talking the NFL. We're talking the Super Bowl. You better be able to step up. You better be able to just turn on. You better be able to have a different notch in your belt. You better. And May did not have that. He played one of the worst games I can recall quarterback ever playing in the Super Bowl. And as this game was unfolding, and I was really paying attention, because I was thinking to myself, this game is almost breaking down. And I got to go back to like the Ravens of 2000 against my Giants. It's exactly what I was thinking. As this game was breaking down, I'm like, man, this is not even going to be competitive. This is not even going to be competitive. This just reminds me of what that Ravens defense did against the Giants. All these turnovers, pick sixes, fumbles. The offense couldn't get out, and they couldn't do anything. And I just felt in a game like this, the way it was positioned for Seattle, their defense was too good. We talked about it on Friday's show. They can get home with just 4. They can get home with just 4. And when Darnold misses kind of that easy touchdown play, look, Sam Darnold did not play lights out football. But again, we told you on Friday he didn't have to. Sam Darnold didn't have to put up gaudy numbers. He just had to play mistake-free football. That's all you really had to do. But I'm watching the game and it's unfolding and they get the field goal and I thought, okay, maybe you punch it in there. You're up quick 7-0. They get they get New England to punt. They got to get rid of they got to turn around and give it right back up. And then what does Seattle do? They go right down the field one more time. They go right down the field. Well, I should say a couple punts later. But point is, when you get into that second quarter, that's pretty much when the game changed. I mean, let's just be honest. That's when the game changed. You had a defensive battle early on in that first quarter, and New England's defense is good. Don't get me wrong. New England's defense, they are a good defense. They're a good defense. Let's not make no mistake about it. They're a good defense. But they couldn't do anything offensively. So once they punt, that second possession, or I should say that first possession to start the second quarter, and they're down 6-0, that's to throw that Darnold miss. And then Seattle gets the ball back a couple possessions later. For all intents and purposes, 9-0, the game was over. I mean, let's just be honest. 9-0, the game is over. They tack on another field goal in the third quarter, and you saw that the defense was starting to get to Drake Maye. They were getting home. Drake Maye was off. And look, I bet you this kid's not 100% healthy. And that's not making excuses, but this kid wasn't 100% healthy. He just wasn't. And he was off on a lot of throws. And once they go up 12-0, to me, the game was over. And look, I know that they were able to punch it in a couple scores in the fourth, but the New England Patriots were not winning that football game. They weren't winning that football game. You know it, and I know it. And then when you get the strip sack, the fumble, and then boom, it's a 19-0 game. That's pretty much all she wrote. That's pretty much all she wrote. And you know what's interesting too? Several times in that game, Mike Grable had some bad coaching blunders and decisions. I mean, they got out-coached. Their game plan was horrible. The players, a lot of people expected were going to step up, didn't. Same thing for Seattle because their offense really didn't have to do much on Sunday. They really didn't. They didn't have to do much. But I just thought that game played out exactly how we predicted it to play out. I mean, it was a no-brainer. Seattle's defense is that good. And you're talking historic levels. And it makes any quarterback, whether it's Sam Darnold or not, it takes a lot of pressure off that quarterback because you don't need to go out and light the world on fire. And that's exactly what Darnold did. He didn't have to worry about lighting the world on fire. He just played mistake-free football. He missed a couple throws, but he also made a couple throws. And he was a little shaky. You could have argued that Gonzalez could have picked him off. You could have argued Gonzalez was probably the best player the Patriots had yesterday. And I don't have a problem saying that. Their defense didn't really step up. You know, as a collective unit, they kept them in check. But again, this kid was making plays and single-handedly keeping New England in the football game. But offensively, oh my God, Drake Maye. I mean, Drake Maye was horrible. And I don't want to pick on the kid. I don't want to pie on the kid, but he was so rattled. He was so nervous. He was so off his spot. He did not look comfortable in the pocket at all. He just didn't. He just didn't. I mean, he was rattled. He was seeing ghosts. We told you Friday. I specifically told you Friday. It's not going to shock me if I came on the air Monday and Maye, and this is a fact. I mean, it's in quotes. It's on Friday's show. And Maye was sacked 7-8 times. They sacked him 6 times. It should have been 7, but they ruled that strip sack actually just basically a fumble and return for a touchdown. And even though New England scored a couple times, look, Seattle was going to give up the 20-20. They were going to give them the field and basically chew up the clock. New England was never going to threaten Seattle in that football game. It wasn't even up for debate. If you actually, I don't know what people were thinking or what they saw leading into that game to make anyone believe that the New England Patriots had a chance in hell to beat the Seattle Seahawks, because they didn't. And we can talk about New England's record. We can talk about all the wins, 14-3, flipping the script. At the end of the day, who did they play? And I'm not blaming New England for playing who's on their schedule. I'm not. But that's the reality of the NFL. Who did you play? You played no one. Name me a weekend where they were really tested. Name me a weekend where you sat there and said, wow, this kind of shows the moxie, the build of the New England Patriots. What, the game against Buffalo? I mean, do you want me to go through who they beat? They beat the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Bucks, the Jets, Cincy, the Giants, the Jets again, the Dolphins. I mean, come on. They were 14-3, but let's just call it for what it is. The New England Patriots were the most fraudulent 14-3 NFL team the league has ever seen. They had a soft-ass schedule, and they were not playing good football in the postseason. They weren't. Their offense was struggling. They averaged 27-28 during the regular season, and then you turn around the offense, 18 points. Again, we told you on Friday, 18 points. You're not beating Seattle in the Super Bowl scoring 18 points. You kidding me? That game was bad. It was a tough watch. It really was. It was a tough watch. Last year, that game was over at the half. That was 34-0. You blink. Yesterday, it felt worse. I mean, at least with Kansas City, you had a little juice, a little buzz with Patrick Mahomes. That's another reason this game had no juice. Like, what were the storylines besides Darnold redemption? And good for Sam Darnold. Couldn't be more happier for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has been basically kicked, in the nuts throughout the course of his career. He's been dragged through the mud throughout the course of his career. The narrative, the perception on Sam Darnold is the guy's a choke artist. He's going to revert back to slinging Sammy Darnold, that's seeing ghosts, making poor decisions, bad throws, bad plays, can't win on the road, can't win in the clutch, can't perform at a high level, folds under the pressure. Look what happened last year on the road, Detroit, week 17, home field advantage on the line, spit the bit. Following playoffs, spit the bit against the Rams. This guy can't get it done. This guy can't win. There's a reason Minnesota decided we're not going to sign you and we're going to stick with the young kid. Well, look at you now. Look at you now. Sam Darnold has won a Super Bowl before Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff. I mean, think about that. Baker Mayfield. So you got to feel good for Sam Darnold, and I don't care if the numbers were pedestrian. This now should end the nonsense, the narrative, the thought that Sam Darnold can't win the big game. All he needed to do was make one or two throws, and he finally made a throw last night, and they go up big, and that game, for all intents and purposes, the 19-0 is over. It was a uneventful Super Bowl. It was not an entertaining Super Bowl by any stretch of the imagination, but we told you this is exactly how it was going to play out on Friday. I laid it out for you how it was going to play out. And Drake Maye struggled. Drake Maye had a horrible Sunday evening, but Drake Maye is a young quarterback. I don't know if the New England Patriots emptied the chamber. I can't tell you if they're going to be able to win 13, 14 games next season. I have absolutely no idea. I really don't. But I think ultimately it proves once again in the NFL, run the football a little bit, quarterback doesn't make mistakes, and you play defense, you're going to win. And that's what we saw yesterday. It's exactly what we saw yesterday. And again, it's just, look, Seattle is that good. They are that good. And when you have a quarterback like Sam Darnold, it's okay if your defense carries you. Because we saw what Darnold was able to do in the regular season. And this can kind of spell the notion about Drake Maye when it comes to the MVP. conversation and debate. Regular season, that is. All right, we'll get into the MVP of the Super Bowl. We'll get into that. Where we rank in the Seattle team. Do you guys look at New England as a fraudulent team? Yes, I got some thoughts on the halftime show, Bad Bunny as well, which apparently made everyone in a tizzy. Lloyd Vance in the 4 o'clock hour. We will also recap all of our player props. And oh my goodness, did we have a weekend during Super Bowl 60. We got a lot to get into, as I mentioned, a NFL heavy Monday edition, which we always like to enable a Man Up Monday. So we're calling out all the BS takes over the weekend. We also had a little caveat to a Man Up Monday edition of On Cue. As you guys know, we throw in a little flair, we throw in a little juice with the Man Up. The Mentioso, Lunes, Manolo, Locador de Radio, Man Up Monday. And I'll say this, a lot of my listeners and commenters, you guys should be manning up on this Monday. And a lot of it has to do, highlighted by my guy, Slinging Sammy friggin' Darnold. Oh, by the way, let me change that. Super Bowl winning quarterback, Slinging Sammy friggin' Darnold. How does that sound for the haters out there? All right, cranking it up. 20 past 3 o'clock hour on a Monday edition of On Cue, powered by our good friends over at Three Brooks Bourbon Pliable. Get ready with tea. Fresh roasted coffee, 20% off in the show notes. Check us out, BYP20. And of course, Play It Again Sports, 2 great locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel in the South Jersey, Burlington County, Camden County area. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. We'll open up. We'll get your thoughts, comments on the game. We laid it out for you. We told you exactly how it was going to play out. If you listen, hey, maybe you were a little profitable over the weekend. Where do we put this Seattle defense? Do we look at New England after it's all said and done and say, see, told you, this team is a bunch of frauds? We'll be back in a minute. Keep it locked in, 60 seconds or less. Quick timeout. It's a Monday edition of On Cue. All right, 32 past the 3 o'clock hour Monday edition of On Q. We'll open up the comments. As well as I mentioned, we're powered by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports 2 locations. You can check me out on X, also on IG at Rich Q on Q on a Monday edition. So as we're talking a lot, obviously, about the Super Bowl, I just don't know how anyone, any sane person, this to me was as predictable as a Super Bowl game as I can remember. And I felt it was an easy call to make. The Patriots, they were frauds. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, how can anyone who's sane think they were beating Seattle? They were not going to beat this team. And offensively, their game plan stunk. We know that. And the head coach has to take some hits. And I can say this, Drake Maye played great football during the regular season. He did. He did. And the fact that he was in the MVP conversation, which we should kind of squash that notion now that there was really any thought of him being the MVP over Matthew Stafford. That's utterly ridiculous. And by the way, the talking heads on the rat ship know exactly who I'm talking to. But during the playoffs, Drake Maye has stunk. During the playoffs, Drake Maye has played like he is a pedestrian at best quarterback. Drake Maye didn't play like any type of MVP caliber quarterback. He played like an average quarterback. I mean, honestly, he stunk. Now, I don't know. Was it an aberration, what we saw this past regular season? Because everyone hyped him up. Everyone hyped him up. Maybe Tom Brady was right. Maybe it was best to say he doesn't have a dog in the fight because he would have been embarrassed with that performance by the Patriots. I mean, this kid was rattled beyond rattled. He never was comfortable in the pocket. And that was, once again, the brilliant game plan by Seattle. And John Schneider, this guy was a struggling GM. And now you got a powerhouse. You got cap money. You got players coming back. They're going to be a dominant team over the next several years. Like, they have the horses and they have the caliber to get back. They really do. But my goodness, I feel like I just don't want to pick on this kid. But man, you can't even tell me about the stats late. That's smoke and mirrors. We're really going to count that? It was oh, by the way, yeah, we'll let you have a touchdown here and there. And it's crazy to think. Drake Maye, when you look at the box score, you're like, wow, he threw for almost 300 yards. He was horrible. Took horrible sacks, disruptive in the pocket, bad throws, bad decisions, missing outs, missing little gimmies, little bunnies, little hitch routes, little wheel routes, little slants. Horrible. They were so bad. When Mac Hollins is your best player, that's a problem. Your best offensive player, that is a problem. You got friggin' Diggs catching a ball. You're down 20-something on points, and he's spinning it in the fourth quarter like a jackass clown. Like, what are we doing? Matthew Stafford had 8 touchdowns this past season, close to 1,000 yards against that Seattle defense. And you guys want to try to tell me that Drake Maye was the MVP? Oh, my God. Stop. Please, just stop. And the other thing, too, is you're looking around. Oh, even worse. I mean, look, the Eagles were not beating Seattle. Seattle was going to dog walk them. The Seahawks would have absolutely ripped the fannies off the friggin' Philadelphia Eagles. They did it against every team, okay? They were the best team from start to finish. But if I'm over in the AFC and I'm looking around right now and I'm Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, if I'm Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, if I'm Josh Allen in Buffalo, oh my God. How the hell can I get past these guys? I'm biased. He chimes in. Q, loving it. What a bad week for Pats fans. Lord and Savior Tom Brady basically said, nah, I'm going to root against the Pats. I can care less. Then the Pats go out and get humbled, Q, or as you like to say, dog walked in front of the nation. What a weekend. Yeah, not a good weekend if you're a Boston sports fan. Nope, not a good weekend. I mean, if you're a Jet fan, you're loving it. If you're a Giants fan, you're loving it. Patriots lose again. If you're the Jets, you're like, hey, AFC East, here we go. Maybe there's a shot here and there down the road. The nation did not want New England to win. Come on. That's one of the other reasons there was no buzz, there was no juice in this game. Because ultimately, there really wasn't a great storyline that we were going to hang our hat on. And there was just no, quote. No, here we go. Here we go. I mean, look, if the Eagles were to get past Seattle in the playoffs, then yeah, they're going to probably blow out New England. I mean, so for Eagles fans, if you don't want me to kind of twist the knife a little bit more in your front, not your back, if you got through that, you pretty much had the easiest path to a back-to-back Super Bowl, to back-to-back wins. And you spit the bit. You choked against the 49ers at home. I just want to add that in there. I just want to throw that caveat in there. That's all. Just it was a brutal game. It was a brutal watch, but I'm happy for Sam Darnold. Kenneth Walker, 27 touches, $135. He gets the MVP. You know what's interesting too? 29-13. Now you're looking at 42 points. The total in that game was 45.5. They threw the flag late with Walker's touchdown run that was negated. That would have got him right around $175 and a touchdown. Easy MVP if that's the case. But you could have made an argument for the punter. You could have made an argument for Jason Myers. You also could have made an argument for a couple defensive players who had a couple big plays in this game, multiple sacks with a couple players. But defensively, they just dominated. At one point, they held New England to 58 yards. I mean, New England got the bulk of the yards in garbage time. 331 yards, I would say 270 were in garbage time. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you that this defense of Seattle, is the greatest of all time? No, but they are some bad cats. They are some bad cats, and it shows just how good they were because they exploited the Patriots' offensive line. And it's exactly what I told you on Friday. I made a point of reference to keep referencing the rookies on that offensive line, and Seattle just basically took advantage of it and they ripped them apart, man. They blitz. And look, for most of the season, New England's line has been somewhat fortunate leading up to Sunday. And you get bailed out because the quarterback's making plays with his legs. He's scrambling. He's buying some time. Last night, different animal. I mean, this kid had no way to go. He had nowhere to go. None. He had no time to throw. None. Now, like I said, from a viewing standpoint, it's all subjective what you find compelling and or sexy. Defensively, I appreciated the effort that Seattle put together. Overall, in a vacuum, I thought the game stunk. I did. Now, it went fairly fast. Not a lot of hankies, not a lot of flags. That's always a good thing. But, man, I'm telling you, this team basically had every screen shot, every snap of this Pats offensive line. They understood tendencies. They knew when they were dropping back. They knew when there was going to be, a tight end chipping. They knew when they were running to the left, to the right, up the gap. They knew when the quarterback was going to try to. They had everything down to a T. It's like it was almost premeditated. They saw exactly. New England had 48 net yards at the half, 13 net passing yards on 25 plays. Then, of course, again, the third quarter, and then, Seattle building that house brick by brick. Masterclass. Right? And by the time New England and Drake Maye had a moment to breathe, to throw, the game was pretty much over. You can throw any metric you want at me. It was just an absolutely man, I'm telling you, they destroyed New England. And I was a little, look, I understand you got to run the football in the NFL. We all know that. And it would have been nice sometimes players do have to bail out their quarterback. Matt Collins was their best player. The kid Douglas made a couple plays. Stephon Diggs did nothing. This guy's spiking the ball down, 16 points with like 2 minutes ago? 22 points? What a clown Diggs is. They got zero production out of players that they needed to get production. They couldn't. The other thing is they could not run the football. And Seattle saw it coming. And I'll say this for the Pats fans out there, because I do want to get your thought on this. Mike Grable, right? Coach of the year. Coach of the year did a hell of a job turning around the New England Patriots. You win a couple games, what was it, 3? And then you turn around and you win 14. Fantastic job. Fantastic job. But this is for those that sit there and say, you got to go conservative because the way the game's going in the Super Bowl, defensive affair. All you heard Collingsworth mention in Tirico, low scoring. Okay. It's 19-0. 19-0. So you're talking less than a minute after Seattle goes out, 19-0. Patriots come right down the field. They score their first points on the game. It's a 35-yarder. Maye, a gorgeous ball to Matt Collins. You got pretty much under 13. You got a whole quarter to go left in the fourth quarter. Mike Grable decided, I'm not going to go for 2, cut it to 11. So he sends a kicker out there, extra point, that's 19-7. Now, again, if you go by the metrics, and I don't care about field of game, successful 2-point conversion, now all of a sudden the Patriots are back in position to kick a field goal for one of the 2 scores they needed to tie the game. Now, why do I bring it up? Because, again, they were able to score again, and I understand it's such a moot point because along with a touchdown, a second 2-point conversion, now you got that 12-point deficit meant New England basically needed 2 touchdowns against that defense, okay? So I was a little surprised there. But the one that stood out the most to me was, again, just not going for it on 4th down. Like, I had a problem with that. You have a 4th and 1, and you understand that maybe possessions are in a game like this, because both teams were kind of punting back and forth, 4th and 1, and I'll kind of set the scenario for you. And they have the ball. It's 4th and 1. They're down 12-0. There is under 8 to go in the third quarter. So it's 4th and 1 at the New England 41. And they punt. I was a little surprised. So this goes to those that always talk about, you can't be uberly aggressive. I do think there's a time and place in these games to do that. And they chose not to. And that's the problem, right? Love the handle. Gabagoo chimes in. Maye did get destroyed, but his supporting cast is awful. He could elevate them all season except against Seattle. That's a fair point. I mean, but that also speaks into the notion that 14 wins, who did you beat? You weren't tested. And let's just be fair. Aside from Buffalo, they really didn't. I mean, who'd you beat that was good? Jim chimed in. Q, I know I emailed you the other day. I actually commented on one of your videos. It was all about Maye making the decisions to run more promptly after the snap than Stafford has. Momentum equals yards, right? That's one of the reasons I had New England winning this game, but you called it. The defense was too much. That front 4 was a menace. That's exactly what they were. They were a menace. I mean, they were getting home with 4. That's as dominating as a defensive performance as I've seen in a Super Bowl. And I mentioned it reminded me of what the Ravens did against the Giants in 2000. And the Giants were coming off shutting out Minnesota in the NFC Championship. Kerry Collins, brilliant, 5 touchdown passes, and then he throws 4 interceptions in the Super Bowl. It was bad. And I don't like to say guys got exposed, but yeah, guess what? Guys got exposed. New England got exposed. The quarterback got exposed. It doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback. But I think maybe we need to pump the brakes when we start talking about these young quarterbacks and they're putting up gaudy numbers. No one is taking away what Drake Maye did during the regular season. No one, I'm not going to sit here and we're not glossing over the fact that this kid threw 31 touchdowns, over 4,400 yards, was good with the football, had that nice win against Buffalo. But in the playoffs, the kid has stunk. And the offensive line totally collapsed. Totally collapsed. This is a mind-numbing stat if you are a New England Patriots fan. In 4 playoff games, including the Super Bowl, Drake Maye was sacked 21 times. It's one of the reasons on Friday's show I said don't be shocked if Seattle sacks him 7 or 8 times. 6 times Sunday. 5 times against Denver. Oh, by the way, they only scored 10 points. 5 times against Houston, which, again, that was a horrible game by Stroud. And then they only scored 16 against the Chargers, and he was sacked 5 times. Does anyone else not realize that this team was leaking oil? Does anyone else not realize this team was leaking oil? It's one of the reasons I told you 31-13 on Friday. It was the easiest prediction probably over the last 25-something years of watching NFL football. New England was tailor-made for Seattle. Flat out tailor-made for Seattle in this game. That kid, that line never stood a chance in hell. It's one of the reasons, run the football, play smart free, and let your defense win the game. It's also one of the reasons we said when we were doing our Q bets and our props, and I've got the list of them, by the way. Oh, I kept receipts because we were on fire. I said, play the Seattle defense for a score. You have to, and you got one. Coach Rick chimes in, May got exposed. I told the biggest Pats fan this days before the game, we love to glorify young quarterbacks like Darnold Montana. It takes time, and I would make them beat us in the pocket for 4 quarters. Look, May played well during the season. He played well during the season. He did. He played well during the season. But the playoffs and that line was collapsing. Scott chimes in, the front 4 was dominant. I do think some of those routes didn't make sense from the Patriots knowing the line was being handled, but it didn't really matter. But I was back and forth from the game and the mixed doubles curling. Let's go USA. Hey, that's not bad. I mean, you throw a couple shekels on that one, right? It was just a bad game. It was not a fun game to watch. It was not an entertaining game, but that's okay. That's okay. It's not for everyone, just like halftime. It's not for everyone. If you're a Seattle fan, you were in your glory. If you're a Patriots fan, oh my God, you were friggin' sulking. You had a horrible Sunday. If you're a Patriots fan, you had a horrible Sunday. For a team that gets to the Super Bowl a lot, think about some of the quarterbacks that have beaten them, aside from my guy Eli. Sam Darnold, Nick Foles, Brett Favre, Jim McMahon. Tom D chimes in, Q. Absolutely no way. There's no way the Eagles would have beat the Seattle team. I don't believe they would have. I'm not saying they would have. What I'm saying is it lined up if they were able to get through Seattle, knowing what we know. Hell, Denver had a backup quarterback. Imagine if Bo Nix plays in that AFC Championship game. I believe it's a different outcome. I really do. I really, really do. And look, you guys can still get on me and you can still rip Sam Darnold all you want. But again, you got to put respect next to Sam Darnold's name. No one can ever sit there and say Sam Darnold never won a Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl on Sunday, period. You guys want to debate where you're going to stick him? I believe right now, Sam Darnold is that top 10-ish, 12-ish quarterback. I really do. Let's not overstate or undervalue New England's defense. They're pretty damn good too. And Darnold did revert back to kind of, what the hell are you doing, Sam? But I believe now this should put to bed the narrative that Sam Darnold can't win the big game. This should put to bed the narrative that Sam Darnold is not a good quarterback, that Sam Darnold is an average quarterback, that Sam Darnold can't make a big throw, that Sam Darnold, wilters under the bright lights. He didn't. I don't care about his numbers. He played a game that, for the most part, 70%, 75-ish, C+, was his game. Get rid of the football, a couple throws, and then a couple nice throws. Didn't get sacked, and had to take off one or two times in the game. Which the irony of that, by the way, when we do our player props, I warned you guys. I have the list right here. I warned you guys. I pleaded and begged with you to steer clear of Sam Darnold rushing yards. I said, go and play the longest run. I think it was over 6. He got 8. Steer clear of rushing yards, because anytime you play that and the team's ahead and winning and they have the ball last, and they're going to do kneel downs, you're going to lose yards. What happened yesterday? Darnold's longest rush hit 8 because he ran for 11 on a scramble. Darnold's rushing yards, 5.5. Right? So you hit it, and then he turns around and he takes the knee and he loses 5. You lose the bet. I told you guys, no one wanted to listen to me. Matt chimes in Pittsgrove. Q, I'm a big Seattle fan, 12th man, let's go. I thought the game was absolutely brilliant from a defensive standpoint. I'm not going to pile up on Drake Maye, but as you said, I am absolutely thrilled about Sam Darnold. A good call on JSN. I decided to play the under. Yeah, he did nothing. He was banged up. We told you Cooper Kupp. I got a list. I can't wait to go through it with Lloyd. A list of all the player props. Yeah, JSN was invisible. 4 for 27. His total was 6 for 95. And he was banged up. Matty L chimes in, I'm a diehard Patriots fan. I think that, to your point, Drake Maye was a little banged up. And you're right, the offensive line was horrible. But listen, man, he is a second-year quarterback, Q. What the hell else did you expect him to do? Again, I am not piling up on May. It's just a reality. I think the kid got exposed a little bit. I really do. No one's saying he's a bad quarterback. But we can't gloss over the fact that you're playing the Jets, the Browns, the Titans, the Raiders, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Falcons, right? Oh, by the way, Jarrett Stidham. If you're going to tell the whole story, if we're going to tell the whole tale, let's be accurate. Let's put some context to it. Hey, if I'm winning these games and I'm winning 11, 12, 13 games a year and getting to playoffs, I don't give a shit who's in front of me. But I also know when it's time for me to put my big boy pants on and I step up in weight and I take on a team like Seattle, I better come to play. And you saw early on, Seattle decided we are not going to let them run. We are not threatened by their wide receivers. We are going to blitz from all angles. We're going to blitz. We're going to rush with 4. We're going to come with our DBs. We're going to come with our safeties. We are going to drop back in coverage in 3rd and long. We are going to stick them in 3rd and long, which is never a good thing with a young quarterback. That's never a good thing. Listen, 6 of 15 smoke and mirrors. 2 of them came in the 4th quarter. You throw them away. You know what the Patriots were? They were 3 or 4 of 15 from 3rd down. You're not winning games like that. You scored 13 points. You're not winning the Super Bowl. You gave up sack after sack after sack. You're not winning. Strip fumble, sack, recover for a touchdown. You're not winning. You couldn't punch it in. You're not winning. The Seattle Seahawks dominated that game like they did against Denver, like Denver did against Carolina, like Baltimore did against the Giants, like the Eagles did last year against Kansas City. The game was over at the half, and Patriots fans didn't even know it, and it was only 9-0. Only 9-0, and we knew that. Star chimes in, Q, I don't have a problem with Walker winning the MVP. I would have went co-MVP route. Yeah, I mean, so one of the player props I gave you, I said dark horse if you wanted to hedge Walker, but I was adamant on Shaheed, a special teams player, winning an MVP. I thought the punter was brilliant. I thought Myers was brilliant, but I think what they wanted was, 5 of 5 and a 53-yarder to win it. But I like the fact that he was recognized by his teammates, obviously. I'm a little surprised, not really by the talking heads after the game, but special teams was phenomenal on Sunday for Seattle. Pinning the ball on the 5, not allowing New England to get anything going, not allowing them to flip the field. Your kicker just being steady Eddie. It was a very good game overall by Seattle. The offense was clean. The game itself, there was only a couple flags, but the defense stole the show. The defense was phenomenal. Do you know there wasn't one fourth down call in that game? But, the game itself it wasn't competitive. It just was not competitive. I agree with Seattle team would have been the Eagles, but way too early Super Bowl pick is Eagles versus Chargers next year. I can't, Scott, I love you, brother. I'm done with the Chargers. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't. I refuse. I'm over this try, and I'm a fan, man. Again, I'm a fan. I am a fan of the locks of one Justin Herbert, but I can't do the Chargers. I can't. New headphones. Who this? AKA He 12 Man, AKA Heisman, AKA Steeler Nation, AKA Duval. Also affectionately known as a show on Vince. Snooze Fest last night, I heard, Wouldn't Know, was working hard. Were you? Now, did you have any props? Did you do any player props, Vincenzo? That's good that you were working hard. So you missed a hell of a halftime show. Love that, Walker. Got it. I wouldn't have had a problem if Hall went. Yeah, that was the other player, the defensive player. I thought too, on the defensive side of the football. I mean, you could have, it's almost like right? With the way that the defense played. Brandon chimes in. Pats fans making fun of CJ Stroud for playing like ass, getting a taste of their own medicine. Losers. Yeah, CJ Stroud. I mean, you're right. Listen, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. Patriot fans were ripping, absolutely destroying Texan CJ Stroud, mocking Stidham. The Patriots didn't just get beat. The New England Patriots got dog walked. The New England Patriots got their asses handed to them. But more and most importantly, the New England Patriots were exposed and they got humbled. I mean, there's no other way. It's not even up for debate. It's not even up for debate. Like I told you, at 3:00, without a doubt, the most predictable as a Super Bowl game as I can remember. I don't know anyone, maybe besides, El Presidente and a couple of crazy Pats fans. My guy Pete Shepard, Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game. He's probably, I don't know, maybe he's having a Molson or two right now. How anyone sane could think that the Patriots were going to see out. They just weren't. Defense wins championships. Defense wins championships. That's it. It wins championships. Had Darnold for an interception, anytime TD for Cup, 0-2 snooze fest, like I said. Oh, my player props with Cups. Look, I get it. It's not for the game itself. You know why? Because leading up to the game, what was the biggest storyline leading up to the game? It was really one thing. Can Sam Darnold get it done? That's really all it was. There wasn't that great quote. There wasn't that, give them food for thought, right? None of that. None of that. It was just very, let's go 2 weeks, you get the low, and here we go. So you had no juice, you had no sizzle, and you knew it was going to be, it's one of the reasons I thought at first, on Thursday, Friday, I started to lean towards the over, and then right away on Back Your Play, I mentioned, no, you know what, 31-13, this game's going under. This game's going under. It might be one of those ugly games. I wasn't looking at Rams and Pats like a couple years ago. I actually thought the Patriots were about to get shut out. And then as soon as I text my buddy, that's when Collingsworth mentioned it. I really thought the Pats were going to get shut out. Witherspoon could have had a case for MVP. New England could not pick him up on the blitz. No, they couldn't do anything. They could not do anything. Mike finally unleashed Witherspoon after barely blitzing within the past 2 seasons. It was a masterclass by Seattle and their coaching staff. It was a masterclass by Seattle. You got 4. And they're getting home. Mikey D chimes in. Q, did you see that May acknowledged he received a pain-killing injection for his right throwing shoulder? He made it clear he's ready to go at the same time. Adds a little more context. maybe he was managing an injury. I think it's a little too critical to say that the kid's a fraud. I didn't call him a fraud. You're putting words on my mouth. I said New England is a fraud. They won 14 games. I hedged it by saying Maye is a good young quarterback. But yesterday, the kid got exposed. I mean, it's just there's no arguing this. They won 14 games. They won 14 games. Any other season, a team that wins 14 games, we are lauding. But every week, after every win, the conversation was, well, wait till they play someone tough. Okay? And they really didn't. They didn't. They lost to the Raiders to start the season. They went on the road. They just got by the Dolphins. They just got by, what was it? The Bills, right? That was a nice win. And prior to that, they lost to the Steelers and they put up 42 against the Panthers, which, okay, young playoff team ascending, whatever. The high water mark was going on the road and beating Buffalo. It was. But then what am I going to hang my hat on? The Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Bucks, the Jets, Cincinnati, the Giants? That's all window dressing, man. That's all window dressing. This is a team that was averaging 28 points in the regular season. They averaged 10 less in the postseason. They averaged 18. 18, as I said on Friday's show, was not going to win. It just wasn't. But a lot of you guys wanted to argue with me. 24-21, 31-24, 31-28, maybe a field goal, maybe a pick six, maybe a Sam Darnold turnover. He didn't give you that. He played a clean game. Yes, he missed some throws, no doubt. Yes, there were dicey moments, absolutely. But again, everyone, Friday, Saturday, Sunday leading up to 6:20, they were waiting for Darnold to revert back to Sam Darnold with the Jets, who was seeing ghosts. They were waiting for Sam Darnold to put on his little magical Cinderella shoes and turn back the clock and not only be the Sam Darnold that's going to throw that back-breaking pick, but he's going to make that head-scratching friggin' decision. Going on the road against Detroit last season with home field on the line, spit the bit. Against the Rams, spit the bit. He changed the narrative, period. And as of 4 o'clock Eastern time, by the way, now we're through Monday edition of On Cue, as we like to call it, a Man Up Monday. Or we like to also add the Lunos Mentioso Manolo, Local Day Radio, powered by Fresh Roasted Coffee, and played again at 4:05. There will never, ever, ever, ever be Sam Darnold slander on this show again. It will not be acceptable. It will not be accepted. And more importantly, it will not be tolerated. As of this moment, this is a Sam Darnold hate-free show. As we welcome in our very good friend, the humbled Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance Matter Football on SR 1029 FM The Game. Kind enough to join me for a few. How are you?
I'm doing good. I knew you'd be incorrigible today, bro. I knew you'd be. You had it correct, man. I mean, you and I broke this game down every which way to Sunday, and it was, he protected the football. Darnold did, and I said I thought they'd win the game, but I thought it'd be a close game. But you thought it was going to be a blowout. Drake Maye would be harassed and he'd make mistakes, and then that'd be the key to the game, and there it was. So I wish the game was a little bit more competitive, but in the end, the Seahawks were a dominant team.
Yeah.
They controlled the ball up front. They ran it effectively, and Darnold, as you said, did not make that killer mistake. And the story, though, is going to be their defense. I mean, their defense was just spectacular.
No, 100%. They did a fantastic job. It's one of the reasons that, honestly, all jokes aside, I just didn't see this game being close. It was a bad matchup for New England. And we talked about this going through the playoffs. New England, they were leaking oil. Offensively, they had major problems scoring points. And I just, 18 points is not going to win you the game. And by the way, real quick, the player props before you little jackasses start to get on me, we were on fire with them. Lloyd and I are going to go through them. So just hang your little friggin' comments out to dry on a Monday because I'm keeping receipts. But I felt that the pass rush was going to get to May. It's one of the other reasons we were talking about maybe getting sacked 6 or 7 times. They couldn't run the football. The kid was very skittish in the pocket. And I like what Seattle was doing. They were throwing different alignments at him. They were rushing for, they were getting home, linebackers dropping back, trying to bait him a little bit. You saw blitzes from the edges, from the corners. It was just a masterful job by that coaching staff. And conversely, it took a lot of pressure off the offense where all you needed to do was run the football a little bit and not have the quarterback make mistakes. Now, you look at a game like that, in the back of your mind, now that we're almost a day past it, do you sit there and say, yeah, 14-3, I can see why people were making the argument about New England? Who have you beaten? Does this kind of validate that argument now for those that were saying, hey man, New England won 14 games, but they haven't beaten anyone?
Well, you do have to look at who they beat and the circumstances, and everything kind of fell their way. Let's face it, they face a Chargers team that does not travel well. They're coming to New England. They beat them. Houston has that great defense, but they beat them. But C.J. Stroud played awful in that game.
Correct.
And then everybody's going to talk about the Denver game, the
Right.
weather. They were able to
And a
control the
backup.
football in the back. Yeah, but no Bo Nix in that game. That was huge, Q. So yes, there was always, a yeah, but all season. But you can't take it away from the great season that Mike Vrabel did in terms of turning a 4-win team into a 14-win team and getting them to the Super Bowl. But in the end, as you said, when I really looked at the roster, particularly their offensive line, they had two rookies on that offensive line. Campbell struggled greatly in this game. He allowed 14 pressures in the game and multiple sacks. And it started with Derek Hall right away, just beating him. And you saw, okay, he's in for a long day. And the, they're a better run blocking unit, but they weren't getting that done either because May was their leading rusher with 37 yards. Stevenson only had 23. Henderson only had 19. So it was just they couldn't get anything going. And at one point, if you remember, they had 6 out of 7 drives
Horrible.
where they were going 3 and out.
Horrible.
They were punting all the time. And Seattle, as you said, they're just staying the course. Kicking their field goals. Their defense, McDonald knew they were going to just control the whole narrative, and that's what they did. And in the end, hey, it's a win, and you cannot take it away from this group.
How about Sam Darnold? Again, I felt he didn't have to put up the gaudy, sexy numbers. Just play mistake-free football. I honestly, too, Lloyd, at 9-0, I think I text you and I'm like, this game feels like it's 17-0 and it's over if they score right here. Darnold, he made the one big throw that he needed to throw to pretty much put the game away.
Yes, he took care of the ball, and we talked all along. That was always like the thing I brought up. 20 turnovers to lead the National Football League. Well, he did his job, and he made sure that he was protecting the football. He's only sacked one time. He was pressured quite often, but he's able to step out of pressure and deliver crisp passes. And that TD, as you said, to Barner, that broke the game open. And yeah, even when Myers was making all those field goals, you're like, yeah, this is kind of insurmountable because the Patriots, they just didn't seem to have any playmakers. Q. They just were not doing much offensively. So you tip your cap to the Seattle, and we'll see how they're going to be able to grow from this. If they're going to say, okay, if they're going to be a team that's dominant that can come back next season.
Sarge chimes in from Wilmington. Q, I'm going to agree with you. I think the Patriots are the biggest frauds in NFL history. I thought this kid never stood a chance. They could have helped him out a little bit. These receivers couldn't get open. They couldn't run the football. What say you? I mean, I'll ask that to you. I mean, again, we can talk fraud all we want. At the end of the day, their O-line, they gave up 21 sacks in the postseason. I think that's just, to me, that is beyond an alarming stat. This kid was getting sacked 4, 5, 6 times every single postseason game, including what transpired on Sunday against arguably one of the best defenses we've probably seen over the last 10, 15 years. So what could they have done to make life easier on Drake Maye?
Yeah, I think one of the things, Q, maybe through some more screens, get the ball out of his hand a lot quicker because
Yeah.
he was just getting pressured immediately. He was pressured on like 25% of his dropbacks. They were in his face. And then you saw McDonald, he started designing some, blitzes. Imanari coming up the middle. He had Reek Woolen coming off the edge a couple of times. He got a couple hits. I think he got a sack, and Drake Maye was not comfortable back there. So maybe do some more quarterback design runs. But in the end, Seattle was just dominant. This may be one of those defenses, Q, we're talking about. I knew you and I were talking about that Ravens defense that beat up the
I text
Giants
you
real
that. Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
That they remind me a lot of them in the Legion of Boom. It just they can beat you a variety of ways, and they just took May right out of the game and never looked back.
Yeah, I text you that because that 2000 Ravens defense was unbelievable, and that quarterback in the Super Bowl, Kerry Collins, got absolutely torched. I mean, the game shifted on the holding call in Hamilton that negated a pick six. Aside from Ron Dixon returning a kickoff or a touchdown, they're getting blanked 34-0. They lose it 34-7. I think it's probably one of the better or best defenses I've seen over the last 10, 15 years. I mean, the Eagles defense, what they were able to do against Kansas City, that game was over 34-0. I'm happy for Darnold. May's a young quarterback. He'll grow into the position a lot more. I do want to ask you though about Mike Grable, and we talk about being too conservative and not being aggressive. And when they score, when they're down 19-0, they score. He elects to go for the extra point. He doesn't go for two, right, to make it an 11-point game. That's one issue. But I also felt with I think it was 8 to go in the third quarter, they're down 12-0. They have a 4th and 1 on their own 41. He elects to not go for it. Is that like what do you think the mindset is right there, right? What do you think is that something that I just I'm afraid to give the ball back to them because we know that possessions are kind of at a premium, and we know the way that game was kind of unfolding.
Yeah, Q, I think he needed to be aggressive. You know what I mean? Especially when you said they got that touchdown. I was like, oh, I'm surprised they're not going for two here because it just seemed like, okay, finally the bubble burst. Mac Hollins gets in the end zone, try to cut this lead. That Seattle keeps getting these field goals, maybe make it bite them in the butt. But, you know, he he leaned on his defense too. He punted a lot, and his offense just was not giving him anything. So yeah, points at a premium. He should have tried when he should have. Seemed like they got aggressive, late in the fourth quarter, but at that point the game was pretty much over.
You look at the road in the AFC. If you're Baltimore, if you're Kansas City, aside from Patrick Mahomes going down, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati never got off the mat with their defense. Buffalo, right? In Denver, obviously, it's a different story because of Bo Nix. But I feel as though a golden opportunity was missed. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you if Seattle gets through or I'm sorry, the Eagles get through Seattle, that would have been a tough task. But hell, they would have probably beaten New England. I don't know about these other teams that I mentioned coming out of the AFC, but as far as them beating potentially Seattle. But point is, these other teams that I talk about in the AFC, they're going to be kicking themselves because they had a golden opportunity. New England, again, at 14-3, and Pats fans, I get it. You're salty. You don't want to deal with the truth. You are not that good of a 14-3 team by NFL standards. I mean, that's just factual. And we saw it leaking in the playoffs. Um, if I'm Baltimore, if I'm Buffalo, I'm probably kicking myself right now because I'm like, man, a golden opportunity to get through the AFC.
Yes, and I know their fans are too, because this was their chance. No Mahomes, and you saw, once you saw the last 10 Super Bowls, you
Mhm.
said, oh man, Mahomes been in pretty much all of them, and the door was open, and particularly for the Buffalo Bills, you thought maybe they break through, and they already beat New England. They played them twice, and they split the games, and they were just as good roster for roster as New England. They just got kind of caught by them. So yeah, I definitely think as they see a New England team that was kind of inferior, had lesser record, that they could have did just as well. So and
You
it's
know,
all
it,
about the quarterback position.
yeah. I mean, if you think about Harbaugh, if he doesn't really take the ball out of Henry's hands against New England, they win that game. Easier road, right? Into the playoffs, and who knows? I mean, it's just fine. Maybe Harbaugh gets to the Super Bowl with Baltimore and Lamar and Henry, and he's not the Giants head coach. I mean, it's crazy. I know it's all Monday morning quarterbacking, as we like to say. All right, I want to hit on because again, everyone's getting on me with the props, the props, the props, the props, and they're absolutely freaking clueless because we have it on record. It's on Back Your Play. It's right here on the channel as well. I was absolutely on fire. It's not my problem if people didn't take advantage of it. It's free content. I can lead you to the water, but I certainly can't force you to drink it. Let me give you the ones we played, and then these are mine, and then we'll talk about yours. But I want a
Yep.
thought, right? So, passing wise, Sam Darnold under, easy call. It was 230. We said play the under, 202. Walker, the rushing yards, he hit that bang, 88 for buck 35, right?
Yep.
I, you and I, we different on JSN. I
Yep.
didn't like his totals. I didn't like 6 for 96. I leaned towards playing the under. He finished 4 of 27. Another friggin' check. Cooper Cup, who you guys mocked me over 6. Here we go. Another check. Drake Maye passing yards, I got wrong. He had 295. I think it was 265. I said play the under, but again, he had to throw him back in. Special teams MVP. Now, I hedged it by saying Walker, which is also on BYP, but I did say Shaheed. I also said he was going to return one. Miss. Drake Maye over rushing yards, 37 and a half. I don't know if you had that one, but he had
Yeah, and
37.
it's 37 on those. I don't know how they do it, Q.
Yep. Backup MVP, Walker, we hedged, yes. Now, this is the one I warned everyone on Friday. I said, take Darnold's longest rush. So it was 8 yards, is actually 11, and they had it as 8. But remember, I told everyone be very careful with your total rushing yards prop for a quarterback. Because if you go back a couple years ago, Patrick Mahomes was right at 34 and a half. He sat on it. They come out, they get the ball back against San Francisco in that blowout win, and he takes a knee and he loses 5 yards. So you got screwed. So what happened yesterday? Darnold's rushing total is sitting there right at 11, right? Or he's sitting right at 11. And then the rushing total is friggin' 5.5. He takes the knee, he backs up a couple yards, and everyone got screwed. I mean, wow. You can't make this up. We played the under. We took Seattle on the money line, and I know there was one more defensive score for a touchdown. So you add all those up, and I'm thinking, what, 11 of 13? Not bad. So for all the nonsense I'm seeing as I peekaboo to the comments, you guys didn't get on the action. You only have yourself to blame.
There you go. And I also brought up.
Right there. It was right there,
It
though.
was.
You had Williams, right? Sacks.
Yeah, Milton Williams, half a sack. That's all he needed, and he got it. He got one. So right there, that one cashed in. Barner, anytime touchdown. I brought that one up. He, that one hit. That was
Yeah,
plus 255.
that was a
That
good
was a
hit.
good payout on that one. But obviously, the JSN one, I had the yardage 94 and a half. He had that injury in the game, and Gonzalez did a great job on him. So yeah, that was my miss there. And the other one I put out there, and I was like, oh, this is going to hit. Mac Hollins 2.5 receptions.
Good
Well,
call.
he
Very
he
good
had
call.
yeah, Mac Hollins had a very good Super Bowl, and he had the four receptions for 78 and one touchdown. So
Yeah, I see a
yeah,
couple
those were a
people
couple
have
I
Mac
put out there.
Johnson. Yeah. Matt in Wallingford chimes in. Q, the JSN was the tricky one, and I'm laughing about the Darnold one. You definitely said that. Yeah, the JSN, I mean, he gets hurt. That's one of the reasons. Remember, I told you I thought they were going to kind of blanket and cover him. It's one of the reasons I thought Cooper Kupp
Yeah.
maybe have a couple of receptions. I mean, he was probably their most active wide receiver on Sunday.
He was, and he found holes in his own, and he was getting open, and yeah, when they were rolling the coverage with Gonzalez on JSN, he was taking advantage of it. So he showed his veteran leadership, and he's not done yet.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of patting the back because everyone points out when misses, but when you friggin' go what 10 of 13, that's kind of on fire. Everyone's got to shut up. If you didn't get in on it, you don't have any coin in the pocket on the Monday. What can I say? Go cry to your mama. Let me get to some comments, ones that actually make sense. So, do you think with a first place schedule, the Pats won't run it back? I think a lot goes into getting to a Super Bowl. So, let me actually back up. Winning a Super Bowl is hard enough. Getting back after you won, as we have seen, is very difficult. But let's talk about the teams that lose Super Bowls. Teams that lose Super Bowls, there's a couple rarities where it might take a season or two. But man, when you get embarrassed like that, case in point, Kansas City last year, now Mahomes goes down. That Giant squad took them a while. We've seen blowouts where teams don't even show up. Carolina, right? That got blown out. It's hard to get back. I think if the New England Patriots do not address the offensive line, it's going to be the same scenario, and you might get that quarterback killed. Like you can't go into next season with that same offensive line. They struggle. Now you want to have patience with the tackles and the bookends. I understand, but you might have to go the veteran route as well. They tried to go with Moses, but he's a good player,
Yeah.
but he's past his prime. You can't give up 21 sacks in the postseason. You just can't. So to Scott's question, I honestly I don't know. I mean, right now, New England is plus 750 to win the AFC East, and we're not even 24, 48 hours removed from the Super Bowl. And that's always fluid. Those betting lines are instant reaction, right? Recency bias after the game. Am I to suggest that Buffalo won't be a 10, 11 win team? Baltimore with a healthy Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, Cincinnati, they fixed their defense. Houston's a young team on the rise, Jacksonville, and on and on and on. So I don't know. I don't know, man. And quite frankly, when you're a young quarterback and you get destroyed like this, what does that do to you mentally? Or, you got to watch the film on it. You got to swallow it. You got to man up and own it. How is Drake Maye going to respond? So I would be very concerned with their offensive line. I still think they need weapons too, man, offensively. They do. You no disrespect to the Matt Collins of the world and Stephon Diggs spinning the friggin' football down 20 something on points. I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, Q. I tend to think that they're going to have trouble getting back to the Super Bowl again. It's just so tough to do. And then they were built around a lot of free agents. They have a lot of guys on 1 year contracts. What's going to happen with those guys? Uh, Elliott Wolf's done a pretty good job. They're going to have another good draft. The offensive line, as you said, they need to look at that area and then get some playmakers on the outside for them. And the defense, I think maybe some more players up front to help Milton Williams and Barrymore. So, a lot of holes to fill up. And you've seen this with teams that lose the Super Bowl. It's just automatically that they just have a lot. There's going to be like 20 new guys on that team. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's going to be a different squad, and at least they'll have Josh McDaniels back, and they'll have Vrabel, so they have some
He didn't, but
consistency.
they didn't have a good game plan though.
They didn't. They did not. They did not. You know, they didn't do anything to help with the pressure.
Yeah.
It just 25% of the backups. And he was running for his life. And Wasu interception, you just saw that. I mean, it was just the
The
floodgates
best
open.
player for New England yesterday was Gonzalez.
Yeah,
Right?
he's a tremendous player.
Yeah. I mean, he made a couple of game-changing plays, right? Almost picked off Darnold, but he kept New England in that game. Look, defensively, New England is a good football team. And I'm not suggesting for all the salty, sensitive Patriot fans out there, because I see all the comments coming in, especially on X, and that's fine. That's fine. I appreciate you guys tuning in. You can say whatever the hell you want. I don't have a problem with that. But the reality is this: that quarterback was overwhelmed. He is still a young quarterback. No one is saying he stinks. No one's saying he's not a good quarterback. All I'm saying is it should have put to bed the conversation of him being a regular season MVP because of who they played on their schedule through no fault of their own. But yesterday, he needed to play a perfect game. If you are a Patriots fan listening in right now, if you can't admit that, then I don't know what to tell you. He needed to play mistake free football. Did the line let him down? Certainly. But sometimes you got to fight through that. And we thought his legs were going to be the X factor. We finally saw it late when the game was pretty much in hand already by Seattle. But he needed to play that 20 of 28, 265, 2 touchdowns, running around for a couple yards, scrambling here and there, extending plays, improvising. He didn't do that. And when you're the quarterback and you're in the Super Bowl and you play that poorly of a game, then you're going to be criticized the next day. And that's going to be the whole topic of conversation in Boston and the New England area all offseason. I'm already hearing it from Patriots fans. that were texting me this morning, like, oh my God, I don't know if this guy's the answer. Look, he went up against a great defense. It wasn't his day, but he also needed to. Collingsworth said it. He had to play pretty much the perfect game, and he wasn't able to do that.
Yes, I agree that he's a young quarterback, and they're going to make adjustments. And McDaniels, I don't think he's going to get another head coaching job for a while, so he'll be
Oh,
there to be his quarterback whisperer and kind of, get that consistency. But the key thing is that they're going to have to find a way to get a running game. You know, that non-running game just hurt them and just put all the pressure
yeah,
on May, and then the line just couldn't
never
block
a good
anybody.
thing. Yeah, you're right. It's never a good thing. Eric chimes in, a couple of O-liners, and we're back soon. Haters going to hate. Listen, I think a lot of the football public wanted New England to fall flat on their ass, to be quite honest. And the game, like I said, it had no juice. Like, who's the most sexiest player in this game? The whole storyline was Sam Darnold. That was pretty much it. That was
Yeah.
pretty much the whole type of story. There were too many storylines, and the game played out as we thought it would play out. It just played out the way we thought it played out. I want to get to this comment. Vince chimes in. Whole Pats will be back crap is crazy. Like they're the Chiefs. Calm down, people. Bucks won a championship in basketball. Remember, no reason to think they'll play another Super Bowl in the next 10 years. Um, Max Crosby coming to New England. I love the optimism. All right, no, I got you. Interesting comment by Vince. Um, it's very hard to get back. You and I both know we covered the league for a long time. It's hard to get back when you lose to. It really is.
Yeah, yeah, and they got to retool. You know what I mean? They got to look at it a whole new season, a whole new group. There'll probably be about 20 new players, and you think about the Eagles. They lost in the 2022 season, and then 2023 they limped home and got blown out by Tampa Bay in the playoffs, and they had to take a look in the mirror and they redo, everything, including the coaching staff and the players and everything, and you got to have good drafts. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's just a lot of factor in it. And then the big bugaboo, injuries. You know, the Chiefs probably would have willed themselves to the playoffs if Mahomes didn't get hurt. So it's just like injuries are a huge factor in terms of every football team season.
Yeah, AB chimes in. Q, when you think about it, you brought up a good point earlier in the show. You talk about Darnold, and then you got Kenneth Walker, played really well on the biggest stage, but the offense basically was submissive, selfless, and humble. It's one of those things. So obviously, you missed what I said in the top of the hour.
Mhm.
It kind of speaks to the way this team is coached and led. Speaking of Seattle, um, it's okay. Next man up. Who's going to
Yeah.
step up? Who's going to make a play? Okay, if I'm not getting my touches, that's okay. If I'm not getting my receptions, that's okay. JSN, he was a non-factor, and granted, banged up a couple plays here and there, but he is arguably their best offensive player. He would have been on any other Sunday. He still is the best offensive player that stepped foot on the field yesterday, and he did nothing. He had 4 for 27. So it's like, okay, I'm going to draw that double. Let other guys have an opportunity. Cooper Cuff 6 for 60, right? Barner 4 for 54. Shaheed got into the mix, with a couple of receptions. It just kind of speaks to the quarterback distributing the football and then working off that ground game that averaged 4.4 yards a carry. So when I said the offense wasn't spectacular, but they were good, that's what I meant. The offense yesterday, they just had to be solid, sound, efficient, and the defense did the rest.
Yes, Q. And I had my notes, they're a we team. Everybody's about we won this thing and as a team, we work together, you know what I mean? And a lot of times that's what happens for these winning teams. They solidify themselves in a locker room. They're a band of brothers, and that's
Yeah.
that's what Seattle reminds me of the most. Because yeah, they don't focus on one person. Yes, they had the offensive player of the year in JSM, and as you said, uh, he didn't have the game that they thought, and they just found next man up. And Walker is kind of a quiet guy, humble. He's not pounding his chest. He's just doing his job. And he ran the ball extremely well in this game, controlled the clock, and then they leaned on that defense that has they have playmakers at every level of that defense,
Yep.
and they were just dominant. So, Seattle, the best team won. So now they celebrate, and then we get ready for the next season.
Yeah. I hate saying that it's, you start to look ahead right away, but I think yesterday was also an example of how a good GM
Yes.
can kind of restore that glory and pride and that culture. I mean, John Schneider was a struggling GM, right? You know, Howie Roseman once got demoted, stick him to the young kids, you know, the little kids table. Uh, I think Seattle, they've got cap space, they've got the players, they're fresh off the Super Bowl. Are they going to be humble? Or are they going to be fat cacks? But right now, they're tied with the Rams plus 950 to win the Super Bowl in 2027. The Bills are at plus 1100. The Eagles, the Ravens, and New England are tied at plus 1300. So I will ask you a day after the Super Bowl, which team next year will be this year's New England Patriots?
Oh man. You know, watch for the Bears. You know what I mean? I really think the Bears. They got a young quarterback, Johnson. That their playbook's working well. They're running the football. Their offensive line's pretty good. They need to fix some holes on their defense, but they could be that team that jumps up and surprises
Yeah,
a lot of people.
I tend to agree with you. I like Caleb Williams. I love what Ben Johnson is doing. I think it's a great fit. Um, and did you? I have to be. So when you look at the season as a whole, and we always talk about the ebb and flow of a season, it's very fluky. You never can kind of figure it out. Is this the kind of perfect example? If you go back and we put a bow on the entire season, okay, did anyone see Bo Nix in Denver? Well, I did because I had him going to the Super Bowl. But the other stuff going on, Seattle and the defense and the Rams and Stafford and the Eagles taking a step back, sort of, losing the playoff game, or Kansas City not making the playoffs, right? Baltimore not making the playoffs, New England getting to the AFC Championship, playing in the Super Bowl. Is that the parity? Or do you take a step back and say, nah, honestly, I just think the product's bad. It was a down year for the NFL.
No, I think it's parity, Q. There's always going for the last 30 years, at least four new teams jump into the playoffs every year, and you know, see at Seattle, they didn't make the playoffs last year. They just missed out on getting in, and they changed their quarterback, and it just shows the improbability of the league. I mean, you get Darnold, who was kind of on a scrap heap after, you talk about that playoff loss to the Rams. He played, and the Vikings were like take a hike, and it's they jumped to the forefront, and then it's crazy. Who would have thought the worst at first for the New England Patriots from 4 wins up to 14 and then making Super Bowl? So I think there's a lot of parity, and injuries and who your quarterback is definitely factors into the situation.
All right. We'll catch you tonight, 8 o'clock. Lloyd Vance's Insider Football.
Yep, 8 o'clock SR 1029 the game, Coast Sports Digital Network. Me and Kevin will talk about the game and get everybody start talking about next season. And we
All
get our
right.
long break, Q.
Yeah. Now, you and I both, all the content, back your play for 20 something odd weeks, including the off season, the draft, all these odds and plays and whatnot. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, brother. Always appreciate you. We'll check you out tonight. As always, 8 o'clock. That's Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Sports Radio 1029 FM, the game. And certainly appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
All right, Q. Thanks for having me on.
All right, there you have it. All right, I got some Pats fans chiming in. They're trying to state their case. That's fine. We will get to your Patriot comments as well. If you guys are just tuning in, listen, 14 wins is a great season, but you do have to just kind of be objective about it. And I just don't know how Patriots fans felt or thought they were winning that game yesterday. And listen, as a fan, you should expect to win the game, but objectively and being realistic, there's absolutely no way that offense was going to do anything against that defense. None. None. You know it, and I know it, and it reared its ugly head. The offensive line did a poor job. That quarterback was under duress. He missed a lot of throws. I'm not going to sit here and argue the merits of the wide receivers making plays or not. I'm not. The quarterback missed a lot of throws because he was under duress because of a bad offensive line. That's a recipe for disaster. You saw it formulating early on in the game. All right. A lot of thoughts coming in, some comments as well I want to get into. Also, the halftime show. Oh, Bad Bunny is a bad man. I have so many thoughts on that. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing some of the opinions and comments I got on Facebook, on X. We'll dive into that. Keep it locked in. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. We'll be back in 30 seconds. We want to get to your comments as well on this Monday edition of On Cue. All right, welcome back. Monday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Don't forget, we're on the AUDACY app, Coastal Sports Digital Network, SR 1029 FM The Game, X, Rumble Kicks, Millions.co as well. Check us out online in the YouTube channel if you like the content. Comment and subscribe and share. Comments are always, 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 always welcomed. As I mentioned, Noah said Max is coming to New England. Yeah, I saw that he basically said he's never going to play another down with the Raiders again. By the way, that's unfortunate because the Raiders have the number 1 overall draft pick. You know they're going to draft Mendoza. They got Genti, they got Bowers, and they got Captain. They got space. They got some money. Bunner chimes in, we didn't belong on the field, but to be honest, if it was the first year of a rebuild year, maybe it wasn't great. Also needs painkillers to play in the game. So that's actually a fair comment, not the painkillers, right? I mean, he's a tough quarterback. No one's disputing that. But it's we didn't belong on the field. You won 14 games and you got through the AFC Championship. No one is saying that the New England Patriots didn't earn the right to play in the Super Bowl. You win 14 games. The New England Patriots are not apologizing because the Denver Broncos didn't have Bo Nix. They're not. They're not going to sit there and say, well, yeah, sorry, Denver, yeah, we'll give you the game. No. Or an overrated Chargers team, or a quarterback in CJ Stroud that played one of the worst playoff games you've ever seen in your life with 4 picks and averaging 4.4 yards a pass attempt and slinging it 47 times. They're not going to apologize for that. You win 14 games, you get to an AFC championship, you won an AFC championship, you get to a Super Bowl, then yes, you've earned the right. All we're saying and all I've been saying is the argument about, don't get it twisted. Earning a right and saying fraud are almost kind of like, okay, you've earned the right, but you didn't beat anyone in the regular season. It's one of the reasons I thought you were going to get exposed. You still played the game. You still won the games. You still won on the road. You still won the AFC Championship, and you got to the playoff. You got the Super Bowl. But it was a bad matchup. It was a bad matchup. Even the ardent and the smartest and the astute Pats fan realized this offensive line was in trouble. Was in trouble. You saw it the first couple series. Listen, no one's calling you dumb. You got to have hope. You got to have hope. You have to, but you also have to be realistic. Look, that game yesterday, and I can tell you, I remember a game like that in the Super Bowl. I remember a game like that, 2000, my Giants. They look like world beaters, blank in Minnesota at home. Kerry Collins looked like a Hall of Fame quarterback. They had no chance in hell of beating that Baltimore Ravens team. None. And I knew that. I knew that. I knew that prior to that game. As much as I wanted to get excited, they were 12-4 that year. They weren't a great team. They weren't. They were 7-4, and that's when Fossil said, all right, put the chips in. Let's go. I'm all in. They were not a great team by any stretch of the imagination. They overachieved. I think that's what New England did. They got the benefit of having some soft games on their schedule, which no one's blaming them for. But ultimately, they were punching up in weight. That's really what they were. They were that 4-5-0 prospect. All of a sudden, they took on a guy that's 13-0 with 12 knockouts. And they got their bell rung. And that happens in sports, and it happens more times than not in the NFL. Just not ready for prime time. Just not ready. But no one is saying they didn't deserve to be there. They just got exposed because when it's all said and done, they had leaks with their offensive line. They couldn't run the football. And again, that quarterback on that offense as a whole did not score points in the postseason. They averaged 28 points during the regular season. They average 18 in the playoffs. I just don't know if they don't make changes, how you can tell me they're going to be right back there next year. I don't know. It's just me. It's my opinion. It's just my opinion. The AFC is a tough conference. It is a tough conference. You know it, and I know it. Proud of the year. and everything. It's just sad to see everyone switch up on Drake Maye. He wasn't great, but let's see what he does this year. Look, he's a young quarterback. He's a young quarterback. And it's hard to get back. Ask Dan Marino. You know, what you will find out about Drake Maye, you'll find out how tough this kid is mentally, not physically. Because yesterday was a very humbling experience. Anytime a quarterback's under duress like that, he didn't have a chance in hell. You know, we saw Patrick Mahomes be harassed not only against the Eagles, but Tampa Bay a couple years ago. He didn't have a chance in hell. Now, I'm not comparing those types of quarterbacks, but what I'm saying is for a young quarterback, a loss like that, the beating that he took, the humbling that he took, it's either going to galvanize him or, you know, he has problems going forward. He gets gun shy. That's the last thing you want from a quarterback. What do you think the Pats should do about the O-line? Obviously, Gonzalez is going to get extended, so money might be a little tight. They got to fix the offensive line. They have to. It's got to be it has to be a absolute priority because it's great that you have rookies start in the Super Bowl on the line, but man, and I think they got to get some off. They got to get some weapons. They got to get some weapons. So they basically, the Patriots, like most teams, when they're kind of they believe they're building towards the future and they see it right there. What do? They start to spend, right? So now the Patriots have already said we have to invest and we have to build around Drake Maye. So they signed Stephon Diggs, 3 years, like $64 million. Milton Williams, 4 years, 104. They added to veteran Moses. I don't know about his contract. You know, Carlton Davis, the cornerback. They added a linebacker. They wanted to strengthen the roster. But what they really need to do, free agency, they really start to have to look at that line. You just have to. And maybe that's a formula in the draft. Maybe you go another weapon for Drake Maye. But you can't have a line that got beat that bad. And I'm not suggesting these teams in the AFC defensively are like Seattle, but man, the Patriots, so they have 11 draft picks, multiple in rounds 4 and 6. And again, the Patriots fans can tell me this more than I can. I think they've got some young players. So you're talking like young contracts, right? Pending free agents, I'd have to look at it. I'd have to break it down. I don't see them winning 14 games next year. I just don't. I don't. Hooper's a free agent. Tonga's a free agent. Hawkins is a free agent. Load the tackle. Couple defensive tackles. One of their tight ends. So to your point, yes, they're going to have to extend Gonzalez, Booty, right, and Douglas. So you're talking a cornerback and 2 wide receivers. To me, those are basically your top. Now, there's talk that who knows what's going to happen with Pickens, who's going to happen with Alex Pierce. Here's another thing. Rashid Shaheed, I think, is a free agent. So he's going to be sought after as well. So you're going to go that route. And you're going to have to spend a little bit because you're building around Drake Maye. I mean, that's just, and Seattle, they've got money to play with. That's what makes Seattle scary. Seattle's got money to play with. Money Marcus chimes in. All right, Q, give us your thoughts on halftime. Yeah, so this apparently, well, not apparently, but the whole halftime show, the halftime of the Super Bowl probably, well, it appeared to rub a lot of people, the wrong way. And I have, but 1 or 2 thoughts on the halftime show. If you don't like something, you don't have to watch. I mean, if it's not your cup of tea, that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to watch. And I think we've gotten to this point right now where, like, the perfect example, the way society is when you talk about the cancel culture, woke, the politics, all the nonsense. If you don't like it, don't watch. So, like, you can enjoy an artist and their music and their performance and their bravado, their charisma. It doesn't necessarily mean if you're enjoying it and or supporting it, you're friggin' un-American and you hate the country. I mean, that's just jackass talk. You're also allowed, the last time I checked in this country, to not like something. You're allowed to not like an artist. You might not like their music. You don't want to support their music, but it also doesn't mean you're a hater. It's just the nonsense crap that's been spewed over the last 12 to 24 hours is utterly ridiculous. Personally, I enjoyed the performance. I like his music. I like the energy. I like the vibe. He was telling a story. I mean, you had basically all these little cameo appearances. You had a couple fighters in there. You had my guy Pascal in there. You had Gaga in there. You had different cameos in there. He was telling the story. Someone had a friggin' wedding, a legit wedding. It was genius. But again, if it's not your cup of tea, that is okay. That's okay. You don't need to watch. You can flip the channel, go get something to eat, turn off the TV, watch the alternate broadcast. I think so many people are making such a big deal over Bad Bunny's performance, and it's divided people to the point where it's goofy talk. It really is. It's absolutely goofy talk. Not everyone has to like something. Like, for instance, the few that maybe decide, and by the way, I put up the numbers. And when I say the few, here you go. The 135.4 that decided to watch, I guess they like his music. I guess they were intrigued. I guess they were curious. Maybe they wanted to watch because they wanted to hate. Maybe they wanted to watch because he's controversial. Maybe they wanted to watch to see what he was going to say or sing or do. I made a joke to my buddy. I was like, he's picking up more yards just walking through these scenes and scenario than the Patriots did in the first half. I get it. It was all in Spanish. That's not your cup of tea. No problem. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. But obviously, there were eyeballs. And that's all the NFL cares about because we're talking about it today. But if you don't like something, you don't have to watch it. And if you like it, it doesn't mean you're un-American and you hate the country. Like, the people that are actually spewing that nonsense and that agenda and that bullshit propaganda, like, you're the problem. Like, you're the scary people in this world. Like, enough is enough. If you want to watch, enjoy it. If you don't want to watch, not a problem. It's as simple as that. It really is. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel. Let's not make it more difficult than it has to be. Because everyone watched, you're watching a friggin' halftime show of the Super Bowl. And yet people want to, I get it. You're always going to bring in the outside noise, the politics, right? You're also going to bring in, the social aspect of it, that element. Not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. All right, got more comments before we get out of here. 5, quick timeout. We'll come back. Mark and Wallingford chimes in. By the way, welcome back. Mark and Wallingford chimes in. Q, it was absolutely not my cup of tea. I thought it was an absolute disgrace. I can't believe you supported that. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what to tell you. Man, I really don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you are hurt by that. Sean chimes in. Q. Seattle made Drake Maye look like Drake maybe able to get a score by the end of the game. Ha ha ha. Loving the show as always. I thought the Pats were definitely suffering from imposter syndrome. They benefited by Nick's injury, boneheaded coaching decisions last game to get here. AFC honestly was a mess this year anyway, with teams just not showing up in the playoffs. Always enjoying your takes. I appreciate that as well. Chris chimes in. Q. I actually would have gave the MVP to the kicker. Believe it or not, we were thinking of that while we were watching the game. I think that was a topic of conversation. The kicker, and maybe listen, maybe they look at the MVP award differently going forward. Someone tweeted out, which was a horrible take. This is why it should be the entire season. So what if you're on a 6-win team, but yet you throw for 5,000 yards and 55 touchdowns and your team wins 6 games because your defense stinks? You're not making the playoffs. Like, there's a reason there's a Super Bowl MVP, right? Sills chimes in. I caught it just like that. I felt if he got into it because he broke the record. Walker did a good run. Walker had a couple of good runs, but offensively, I still felt it could have went to a kicker. Right, record setting, I think, is what Sills meant. So if the kicker goes 5 of 5 for a 52-yarder to end it, then there you go. I mean, to me, that's kind of what I'm assuming you mean. The punter did exceptional, and the kicker was steady Eddie. And the other thing is, they threw that flag on that Walker touchdown. That touchdown would have actually pushed the total over. Just saying. Brian chimes in. Q wasn't even an option in the online betting. Interesting. Chris says same thing before the fourth quarter. It would have been the first time in history kicker won the MVP. 18 of those 29 points. Yep. The MVP award has only gone to one special teams player, and that was Desmond Howard. Man says, probably the best thing you've said since August. Anyone that is bothered by either side has no life. Yeah, well, that's probably the best thing you've said since August, madman. Personally enjoyed show and appreciate the storytelling. Eventually, people have to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves why they can't go without criticizing other cultures. Yes. Unfortunately, it's not the world we live in. That's not the world we live in, right? You would think, but it's not the world we live in. I was having a panic attack after reaching it 7 months until regular season 2026. Patriots fans are very, very salty today. They are extremely, extremely salty today, some of you Patriots fans. That's okay. There's always next year. That's the way you got to look at it. You got to the Super Bowl. You got your asses handed to them. The quarterback looked absolutely demoralized. But you won 14 games and you got to the Super Bowl, and no one can take that away from you. 2 teams. That's it. At the end of the day, there's only 2 teams standing. Monday Marcus chimes in again. Q, I really don't think this team is going to win 14 games. I think it was an aberration, smoke and mirrors. I know their schedule is going to get a little tougher, obviously, but still you got to contend with the Bills. I don't think Miami's going to be as bad as you think, and the Jets might get a bridge quarterback. Okay. Yeah, Celtics are playing really well. Now I guess we're allowed to talk some NBA. We're allowed to get in the NBA now. We'll do that with Jonathan Marshall, right? Celtics are what, 34-19? Even though they did get blown out by my Knicks. Just throwing it out there. But even without Tatum too. Yeah. And we don't know again, what the Red Sox are going to do, right? We don't know. Let me see. Oh my goodness. Dylan 6 chimes in. He's an Eagle friggin' troll. Q, absolutely no way did I actually keep that garbage on during half. I flipped the channel. I'm surprised you actually watched it. Why? Because I like Bad Bunny. You know, the narrow-minded, really narrow-minded thinking of some people is unbelievable. It really is. Like, it's really unbelievable. I know they got smashed by the Pistons. I still don't believe the Pistons are legit. I don't. But they bounced back and they beat the Celtics. And oh, by the way, yes, they definitely got smashed. But I mean, can we talk about that game for a second? I mean, I can't have I can't have Brunson go 4 for 20. That's typically what he does, right? No Anthony Davis. I'm sorry, no Cat or Anthony Davis. Oh my goodness, no Cat, right? Don't get on me with the Knicks. I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to. Right now, I will say this: the show is no longer. There's no more Sam Darnold bashing, and we're not getting into the Knicks. Yeah, I saw that too with the Boston Red Sox. I can't. I can't right now. I can't get into Boston. I can't get into baseball right now. Steve Garner, maybe in a week or two, we'll get into a little baseball. Could be a nice move for the Boston Red Sox. Could be. Bruins, they're not bad this year, right? I think the Bruins, what, 32 wins, right, in that Atlantic Division? I think a lot of the Boston fans have been spoiled, New England fans. That's because, the Patriots are a dynasty. It's a great franchise. And the fact that they're a couple years removed and now you have a franchise quarterback and a head coach, that's huge. Like, think about this for a minute. All jokes aside, all kidding aside, a couple years ago, you're talking about the Cam Newtons and the Gerard Mayos. Now you have a young franchise quarterback. You've got some talent. You got a good defense, and you have an ascending head coach who basically was discarded in Tennessee. So look, the Patriots are going to be fine. Is it, are they going to win 14 games next year? I think it's highly unlikely. Can they take a step back and still be a playoff team? Sure, they can. But look where you were, right? Look where you guys were. That's all. Gerard Mayo calling out players. Calling out players. I mean, that was a disaster of a hire. Do you want to go back? I mean, do you want to go back? And think about it. Because of that firing, it led you down this path. That's the beauty. And like for me, I'm actually thankful Harbaugh decided to bench Henry and not run him. Or when I say bench, but not run him in that second half. What if Baltimore gets into playoffs and they make a run? Harbaugh's not going anywhere. So there's a reason things turn out the way they do. That's all. So yes, it's a bad loss. You get blown out in the Super Bowl. You live to fight another day. It's going to be tough to get back there. 14 wins, young quarterback, very good head coach. The future's bright. The future's bright. But there's an element of still getting exposed at times. That's all. That's all. And again, that's not a negative. We've seen it happen. We've seen it happen. You punch up in your weight class, you get in trouble. All right, a couple more before we get out of here. Jody Summers Point chiming in. Q, excellent take on the Philadelphia Eagles. You know they would have been smashed by Seattle. I'll say this, though. What do you think they're going to do with A.J. Brown? Don't know. I have no idea what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do with A.J. Brown. I really don't. I don't. I mean, listen, we know that at this moment, there's probably 3, 4, 5, 6 trade, potential destinations for AJ Brown. Look, the Ravens can use an AJ Brown. New England can use AJ Brown. Kansas City can use another weapon. I think it's clear AJ Brown's time in Philly's ended. I really do. But that's a conversation for another day. I mean, we can start looking ahead if you almost kind of handicap the NFC and the AFC respectively. I asked Lloyd this: what team next year will be this year's New England? We'll talk about it a little more tomorrow, but he gave a couple pretty good answers. Chicago might be that team, right? Carolina, maybe. You just never know. And when you have a year like this, a season like this, you should enjoy it as a fan. It hurts that you lose the Super Bowl. It does. But you got there. And not a lot of teams can say it. So I'm trying to actually do the glass half full for some of you guys. Look, you go through the seasons that Cleveland, Cincy, Jets, Giants, the Raiders have had. And it's the worst kept secret. Now we know that Kubiak's taken the Raiders job. I actually think the Raiders have an opportunity to be one of those teams that turn it around quickly. I do. They're going to have money. I don't know what they're going to do with Crosby. I know that Pro Football Talk. I know that Glazer was saying he wants out. He basically told the Raiders he's played his last snap. He's a great player. That's unfortunate. You know, you think of Max Crosby. He is that quintessential, that Raiders type of player, that character, that mold. But they've got weapons, right? They got Genty, they got Bowers, and they're going to draft Mendoza, and they've got money to play with. The Raiders might not win 8, 9 games, but the Raiders can turn around next season and they can start to show you they're going to be a tough out maybe in year number 2. You know, they can go from 3 to 6 with a rookie quarterback to 7 wins, 3, 7, maybe 8. And then in year number 2 with Mendoza, take that next jump. That's what I'm hoping the Giants do. I'm hoping the Giants do that with Dart. Your 4 wins and you take that next jump. Carolina, everyone was giving up on Bryce Young. And now Carolina is a playoff team. If you were to just quickly, before we get out of here, and handicap right now the NFL, like crystal ball, looking ahead to next season, who knows what the Eagles are going to do in the offseason, and who knows their mindset. And I think that head coach is going to be on the hot seat going in. We talk a lot of those teams up and down 95, the Eagles, the Giants, the Jets, Washington. We throw Dallas into the mix, right? But I don't know about the Eagles. I think Chicago's ascending. I think Green Bay just got bit with so many bad injuries. Minnesota's kicking themselves right now because they let Darnold go. Detroit is an enigma. Carolina's a young team. I'm not sold on Tampa. I'm not sold on Atlanta. Maybe New Orleans jumps from 6 to 9, maybe 8. Seattle is now the defending Super Bowl champ. The Rams are still the Rams. Stafford's going to come back. They're going to run it back again with Stafford. And then the 49ers, all you need is the friggin' 49ers try to get through one season without injuries. And Arizona is a joke. So you got 4 or 5 teams, I would say, right now in the NFC. And then in the AFC, I just think Baltimore is clearly the best team in that division. In the AFC North, the AFC South, throw a dart. The Colts were the story of the NFL season. Then Daniel Jones gets hurt. Where's he going to go? Is he coming back with the Colts? Is he going to sign another contract somewhere? Hell, there's talk about Minnesota maybe signing Daniel Jones. Kirk Cousins getting released, maybe going back as a bridge quarterback. So let's forget about the AFC South. Then you got Denver. You're going to get Knicks back. Kansas City's going to get Mahomes back. I don't think he's going to be fully healthy and ready in September. The Raiders are a young team that eventually they will figure it out if the owner can just get the hell out of the way. The Chargers won 11 games, but the Chargers, to me, they're kind of fraudulent with that quarterback. I like them, but they never win the big game. You can't trust them. And then you got New England and Buffalo. Point being is there's probably 5, 6, 7 teams right now we can say, yeah, they're probably going to be in the mix next season. There's parity in the NFL. And I think Madman said it last week. He might have said it on Friday's show because I do read the comments and pay attention to when you guys comment in. I think he said, to paraphrase, it wouldn't shock me any outcome with this game. New England wins, Seattle wins, close game or blowout. That's the type of season that we've had in the NFL. I agree wholeheartedly. We might get a season like that next year. It might not be a sexy season. It might be an season. We'll get some good playoff games here and there, some late season games, but we might get a team that comes out of nowhere next season, like New England, like Denver did in the AFC, like Chicago and Carolina did in the NFC. But that's the beauty of parity in the NFL. But we know one thing. Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Super Bowl winning quarterback. And I don't think a lot of people thought that was ever going to happen. All right, got to start wrapping up. We'll talk a little more about the NFL as a whole tomorrow. We'll start to mix in a little NBA. March Madness right around the corner. Get social with us. As always, we're followed by our good friends over at SR 1029 FM The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network, part of the AUDACY app. We are powered by Fresh Roasted Coffee, Played Against Sports, also 2 locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel, Pliable, Get Ready with Tea, and Three Brooks Bourbon. Appreciate all the new commenters. If you like the content, comment, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would help me out a great deal. Always appreciate the support. Back in the saddle, little power hour on a Tuesday edition of On Cue. Check out the notifications on the YouTube channel. Appreciate Lloyd Vance jumping on board for a couple moments as well. You can catch him tonight, 8 to 9, Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. You can follow me on X as well as IG at Rich Q on Q. You guys have a wonderful Sports Monday. Enjoy your Tuesday. We will be back in the saddle mañana. As always, be safe, be sound. I got a couple more comments. I'll respond to you guys on Twitter when we get off the air because I see them coming in. I appreciate it. But again, I will definitely comment and I'll get back to you guys. We will be back, as I mentioned, tomorrow. Check out the YouTube channel for the notifications when we fire off. No banker hours, probably around 3-ish, maybe 2:30-ish, maybe 4-ish, but not banker hours. Appreciate you guys always keeping us locked in. And again, I greatly thank you to the new listeners and the commenters, whether you guys come in positive, negative, it doesn't matter. You guys are listening, and I greatly appreciate it. Have a good Sports Monday. We will talk to you mañana on another edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.